Okay. All right. Well, I had hoped for a larger crowd, but we'll record this and we will plan to post it out on YouTube for everybody to watch later. I am going to go ahead and just get things started. I have some announcements and just some things I wanted to talk about that people have been waiting to hear about for this season. So we'll just go ahead and plan on getting started with the folks we've got, and then answer questions. And then Keith and Paul, even if you don't have any questions, if you guys want to plan on just maybe going over, Paul, especially you with the game and everybody having seen the game yesterday, just some important things you think might be of note for teams just getting started, we can certainly touch on that as well. So I want to welcome you guys. Thank you for joining today. Hopefully everyone had a chance to see the game yesterday or has had a chance to view the game. It looks like a pretty fun game. So hopefully everyone's had a chance to at least watch first video from yesterday and see what the game is all about. All of the season materials have been posted to their website, so you now have access to all of the game manuals and everything you need for your teams to get started. So we hope you guys enjoy building a robot for this game. It looks like it will be a lot of fun. So I'm going to go ahead and get things started with the first and foremost thing that everybody is dying to know for the season. I've gotten a lot of emails asking what the plans are for the season, meaning will we be doing in person or will we be going remote? So the answer I have right now is we have been approved to move forward with hybrid events. For those of you who may not be familiar with what a hybrid event is, essentially it is remote judging. So all judging will be taking place remotely this season, again, through Zoom with in-person robot competition. So at this point in time, we will be moving forward with these hybrid plans. Now, I do want to make sure that I mentioned these in-person robot competitions are not going to be what everybody is used to seeing. We're not going straight from remote last year into normal traditional events like everybody's used to. Obviously, we still have guidelines and a lot of restrictions and safety measures that we will need to be taking care of and be putting in place. So these will be modified in-person competitions or qualifiers. But as of right now, we will be moving forward with this hybrid plan. I think that everyone has their own unique situation as far as what their team will be able to do. So what we will be doing is next week, we are going to send out a survey to all of our teams just to gather a little bit more information from each of you as far as where you are with your plans for the season and what you feel that you as a team will be able to do as far as attending in person or attending, not being able to attend in person. If we do have teams that are unable to do in-person events, then we will absolutely be offering fully remote options for those teams as well. So we want to make sure that every team that is choosing to participate in FTC this season is going to have that opportunity to do so, whether they want to participate in one of the modified in-person robot competitions or whether they need to be able to participate in a fully remote option. So that's kind of an exciting thing. I know everybody's been waiting a long time and very patiently for that news, but that is, as of right now, the plan that we will be moving forward with. So as far as tournament registration, we are still in flux as far as gathering dates and venues for some of our tournaments and tournament hosts. So I would assume that tournament registration will probably happen sometime in October. It will take place similar to last year. We'll do it in waves. And we will be giving priority to those teams who live within the certain vicinity for their kind of, we'll say, home tournament. So tournament registration will be done very similarly to last year for those teams that participated last year. But look for more information on that. I anticipate tournament registration to be taking place sometime in October for all of our qualifying tournaments. Championship. So this is a pretty exciting thing. As of right now, we are also planning for an in-person championship. Championship will be, or is currently set for March 4th through 6th, 2022. It will be at the Wright State University Nutter Center down here in Dayton. And it will be a combined First Lego League and First Tech Challenge Championship. So we will essentially have the whole weekend where we will be having the FTC robot game taking place in the Nutter Center Arena on Saturday, and the First Lego League Championship robot game taking place in the arena on Sunday. So we've got a whole weekend that will be packed full of fun and celebration for a really big event, big championship for all of our teams in Ohio. So that is set once again for March 4th through 6th of 2022. The other thing that I wanted to mention real quick before I hand it over to Paul and Keith is Dean's List. I haven't gotten any questions about Dean's List yet, but once first opens the submission window, which we will communicate that out to all of our teams, we will be planning to do a interview only event again this year, just like last year. So Dean's List students or nominees will not be interviewed at individual events. They will be interviewed at this interview only event. And that will probably be taking place sometime in early February would be my guess, which puts the deadline for submissions at January 15th. So look for more information on Dean's List to come out once first opens their submission portal, and we'll share that information out once they have that set. But just to give you guys a heads up and kind of a timeline understanding, we will be doing an interview only Dean's List event, and that will probably be in early February with submission deadlines in January, mid-January. I do want to encourage everybody to go ahead and please make sure you're watching our social media, so Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, as well as to join the Ohio FTC Discord channel. The Discord was used a lot last season, and teams and coaches seem to really enjoy it. It's a great place for teams to talk, share ideas, share problems that they're having, and really kind of collaborate. Paul is wonderful about answering questions on the Discord as well. So if you're in the middle of something and you come up with a game question, you can throw it into Discord, and another team might have an answer, a coach might have an answer. Everybody's kind of in there helping each other out. So I highly recommend teams join that Ohio FTC Discord. If you are wanting to do that, you will need to reach out to Andy Yantes. I put his email address in the chat. Feel free to email him and he can get you added to the Discord. Ohio State Championship be hybrid or virtual judging? More than likely it will be remote judging for championship as well. And the reason for the remote judging is simply to keep our numbers in these spaces down, and to be able to keep folks moving through in a timely fashion and keep things scheduled well. So I would anticipate at this time that all judging this season is probably going to be remote, including championship judging. So if anything with that were to change, obviously we will let you guys know. But at this point in time, that is what I would plan for. All right, so those were the big announcements that I had that I wanted to just make sure everybody is aware of. We will continue to update our website with more information, and of course we will always send out emails. So when tournament registration is ready to open, we will send out an email with all of that information to everybody. We'll put everything out on our website. We'll make sure that everybody has plenty of time and all the information they need to make sure that they can get all this taken care of in a timely fashion and without too much trouble. So with that said, I think those were the big things that I wanted to talk about. the few folks we've got on the phone, do you have any questions for any of us at this point? Keep in mind, we've got Paul Smith, our head ref on the call. We've got Keith Grinstead, our regional lead judge advisor. So if anybody has game questions or judging questions, please feel free to ask those and speak up now. Tournament fees, that's a great question. That has not yet been decided. So obviously in a normal season, 125. Last year with the remote, it was 65. I would guess this season, it's probably going to be somewhere in between there. Since we're keeping things remote with the judging, but having in-person, modified in-person, we won't need as much stuff at some of these events. So I do believe that the tournament fee won't be the 125 for like a normal season, but it might be a little bit more than the 65 that we did when we went fully remote last season. So somewhere in between there is where I would put it, but we don't have a set number yet. So I'm gonna take notes. So if I'm looking down, I'm listening, I promise. I'm gonna take notes while everybody's asking questions. All right. I'm going to be quiet now. Please feel free to just take yourself off of mute, ask any questions you have. If we don't have questions, Paul and Keith, like I said, if you guys want to just go over any things that you guys have seen with the game or judging that you feel you might need to share or is important for teams to know, I would say go for it. Now's the time.
Well, I guess since there aren't any questions, I can just briefly. So I think based on what Sarah has said this year, that the plan is to have a hybrid event, that the team should focus on in terms of playing the traditional game. Teams that may have been rookies last year will not know probably what a traditional game is, and neither any rookies. I don't know if we have rookies this season either, but you should focus on Game Manual 2 traditional events and also Game Manual 1 traditional events. Game Manual 1 came out in July. It has a lot of information about the judging process and the awards. It has all of the requirements for the robot mechanical, electrical, and software requirements, and also how the tournament procedures work. So it's just as important as Game Manual 2. Game Manual 2 is purely focused on the game. And so this year it's all about shipping freight to shipping hubs and storage units, and we even have a carousel. I don't know if that's like a baggage handler at an airport, but it delivers ducks. So that's going to be the closest we get to a water game, I think. I don't think we're going to go much further than that in any season. Now, for those who, I assume most teams will have ordered fields from AndyMark, whether it's a half field or a full field, but you're going to have to be modifying, they call it, either existing game elements you may have had from previous seasons, but at least the ones that come in the box, you're also going to have to do this same modification, which is basically adding weights into these boxes. And based on my experience of putting one of these games, you may end up with a very sore thumb from pushing these weights in. These weights have a little, the thing I ask you to be aware of is these weights have a little steel cylindrical piece of steel that have an O-ring groove. And you have to put a little rubber O-ring on it before you slide it into this honeycomb kind of box. Do that very slowly, very cautiously. Just don't bang it on a table, because if that O-ring gets off and broken, you're going to be trouble trying to have to pull this weight back out. It's very difficult. I had to do it on a couple of them. So you have to get a little Allen key in and try and find the groove in the weight and pull it out. So take your time doing it. Try and have more than one person, because you won't get sore thumbs at the end of it. So that's my advice there. So other than that, putting together one of those shipping hubs, it's called the shared shipping hub. There's a lot of tape to put on there to identify the alliance side. That takes a bit of a while as well, all these 2-inch strips. So again, be careful how you do that, following the instructions. So Yeah, my experience that most of the field setup is actually fairly straightforward. There's not too many screws and things to put together, but there's a lot of taping and modification just takes as much time. And setting up the field as well is a little tricky because there's these barriers or obstacles on the field. They have plates underneath them that you've got to assemble with zip ties, and they're quite a struggle. If you're going to be removing those, reassembling those fields at a future point, I think you're going to end up having to get some spare zip ties instead of trying to insert a tile between the plate and the upper surface. So have some spare zip ties on hand if you're thinking of reassembling or resetting up the field quite a few times.
Yeah, actually, Paul, my advice on that, because that's probably where I spent the most time, is trying to figure out exactly where that zip tie, because they have a little diagram and you're trying to read it because it's supposed to go between the fifth groove of this little widget. And it's and I, I have my reading glasses on, I'm trying to see the thing, and it's really difficult. So get some young kids who have very good eyes who can read those things and figure out to help you with, because that's
my method was a little different. I laid down the tubes, and wherever they ended, that's where I put the plate and the zip tie.
Okay.
It's really what it's about. So
yeah, that may have been better. I was trying to follow the instructions exactly, and it was not. That was
and the design of some of the field tiles. Not everybody's field tiles are the same, so that's always a problem as well. But yeah, it probably took me an hour with my son to set the field up yesterday, and first mistake I made was actually get north and south the wrong way around to start off with. So I started assembling something in the wrong place. I put the carousels at the wrong end, but they're easy enough to take out. But it is straightforward once you know, but it does take a little bit of time, especially those obstacles. And anybody who does have a half field, you just probably get the half set. There is one shared element called the shared shipping hub. I don't know if that you would probably want to request it in the half field. I think the box you would order is, I think it's called, you get the Alliance color plus shared shipping unit. So you at least want to have that shared hub in it. If you're playing remotely, there's nothing shared, and there's actually very little to the field in a remote event. Something else, if you hadn't read the game manual, a common question was, well, where's the human player this year? Who puts the ducks on the field? Well, there is no human player, and it's going to be somebody from one of the two alliances in each of the, one of the two drive teams in each alliance. So that's probably going to be one of the drive team coaches. So you only need that person really to in end game. That's where the ducks get put onto the carousel by a member of the team. So that's something a team's just going to have to work out, who's going to put the ducks on the carousel. I'd probably recommend the coach, since the drivers usually have a gamepad in their hand and they're busy trying to navigate the robot everywhere.
Oh, we do have a question, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. During autonomous, can you score more than one duck from the carousel? Meaning, can the drive team put another duck on the carousel?
No, and there's a rule about that as well. So no, once that duck's on the once you've been successful in delivering, as it's called, the duck, which is basically rotating the carousel and having it fall on the floor, that's it for autonomous. You cannot put the duck on the carousel until the driver control period. There doesn't seem to be a rule about putting a duck on it during driver, but the only time you can then spin the carousel again is in endgame. So it's a one-time shot in autonomous, and then really it's endgame for the rest of them. Another question we've always had is the drive team. Who can be on the drive team? Well, so no human player, so what we're left with is you'll have two drivers and one coach. The drivers have to be students or pre-college age students, and the coach is typically a student, but it actually can be an adult on the team. So sometimes when you have small teams, you end up with an adult being being the drive coach. Now the drive coach doesn't get to, they can hold the drive station that has all of the Android device and the game pads on, but they cannot use the game pads to drive the robot. So they're there to really call out, help advise, maybe track the clock, things like that. So that can be a student or an adult, but the person driving the robot, well, up to two students have to be students. So other than that, I think it is fairly, there's a lot of scoring opportunities, probably more so, I think, than most years. And it's very diverse in the scoring achievements. Last year, everybody was just shooting rings, basically. From their robot, they could have put rings on wobble goals on this. But this year is very strategic, and especially in an alliance format, right? You're going to be having to decide that the point scoring on a lot of things are very similar, except for autonomous, where I hope every team works with their software, their vision system, to identify. It's like last year we had a randomization of the field. The robot looks at where some rings were. This year it's where is the duck, or where is your team scoring element. You've got a choice of using a duck to identify, or your custom-made scoring element, calling to replace the duck. So if you use the vision system correctly and identify the position of the duck, you then can take this box that you put on the robot and put it on a shipping hub. That's worth like 10 or 20 bonus points. That's a big deal in autonomous. So the programmers, great opportunity to show the skills on how, and the logic of how they can identify where to place this box that's going to be on their robot. The rest of it's straightforward. You know, we've got some obstacles this year, a lot of discussion. Well, can I use mechanism wheels? All teams have been using this mechanism wheels every year. You know, can they get over these obstacles? Or am I going to build a small robot that gets through the areas that there are no obstacles? It's fairly straightforward. I think most of the day this year is going to be grabbing objects and lifting them and putting on places. So I don't think you have to actually have a complicated robot as we have had in recent years. I think you're going to need a fast one, because the driver control period, all you're going to be doing is grabbing one at a time these blocks and balls from the warehouse. We call these boxes and balls freight, and you're going to be in driver control period, going backwards and forwards, collecting those and putting them in these shipping hubs. So that's the highlight of it. I think this year it will be a very strategic play with alliances. You know, you're going to have a partner there is randomly selected on the day of the event. You know, you might have 5 matches or 6 matches during the day. You get a random partner to be with, a random alliance, or a random team that forms your alliance. And you'll get some time to talk with them and discuss what their robot is capable of, and you'll tell them what your robot's capable of, and you'll try and make an upfront agreement of which achievements you think your robot's best at. So you don't get much time, so your alliance pairings get announced at the beginning of the day, and then you're off to play your matches. So there'll be a lot there to work on. As I always advise, work on, focus on the highest scoring tasks first, but make sure in the end you can do them all, because we know robots break down, things happen, and you end up as a 1-person alliance against a 2-person alliance. And it's good to have everything available to get the best score you can.
All right, we do have a couple more questions, Paul. Let's see. Can the team element be put on the shipping hubs?
Team element on the shipping hub, yes, but it won't score anything. And the purpose of the team, what you want to do is at the end of the game, it's called capping. The goal is to put that team element on the top of your shipping hub, above the top level of your shipping hub. That's the other high scoring point of the day, where you and your alliance partner both try and put your scoring elements on the top. So that's other thing to think about is the design of your scoring element. You know, what's it going to look like that it can fit on, or fit around the tube at the top of that shipping hub. You don't know what your alliance partner's shipping hub is going to look like until the day. So it's too late to adjust for that. So think about what could it be, or how best could I score, not knowing the shape of their shipping hub, because you are allowed to stack on top, or you can grab around the tube to score that in that capping. So something to think about is that design of your shipping hub.
All right, and it also, let's see, in addition to that, and can the team element cap the shared hub?
No, it's just your own.
Okay. Is the robot allowed to possess more than one block or cube when completely in the warehouse?
No. Once you, at any time, anywhere, you can only be in possession of one block, one cube, or one duck. You are allowed to carry around your shipping element, your team supplied shipping element, in addition to that. You can go, you can run into, there's lots, there's, I forget the quantity now, around 40 or something pieces in those corners. In the process of picking one up, if you were to bump into others on the floor as you're trying to navigate, that's okay. You're not intentionally trying to carry two, but you can only intentionally carry one ball or one block at any time.
I'm sorry, Paul, did you say you can only carry one duck?
Yes, one duck or one block or one ball.
Why would you carry a duck?
You can carry a duck any way you want.
Yeah, but the ducks are not scored in any way, right? Though, I mean,
well, in endgame, well, you score one in autonomous, it'll be on the floor. So if you're pretty smart and you go to the carousel, rotate it, and drop one on the floor, you could, if you had some vision software or something, recognize where it is and pick it up and take it to the hub. Also in endgame, those ducks are put on the carousel and enter the game field. They're delivered to the game field, so you could take those to the shipping hub as well.
Oh, so those are worth points, because I thought,
yes,
the rules only said that freight was worth, but ducks aren't necessarily freight, are they?
The definition of freight is ducks,
okay,
boxes, and cargo.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah, that's another thing. That's a good point. Always read the definition. In addition, in Game Manual 2, you got all here's what you do, here are the rules. Make sure you read those definitions up front, because it does answer things just like Jeff said there. Is like, what's the definition of freight? That's where you find the definition of freight.
Okay, Paul, a couple more questions here. Let's see, can the robot be stationary and extend to both retrieve and deliver from one position in between, or must it move between?
Well, I'm not sure between what, but to deliver freight out of that, there's a specific process, again, actually in the definitions section on how you deliver something from the warehouse. I'm trying to see if I can find it anywhere. I can't find it offhand at the moment.
I was trying to find my unmute button. So we're talking about maybe somebody building a robot that extended from, say, the warehouse to the target hub and just delivered them one at a time across.
Yeah, that's what you can't do. So there's a direct procedure, and what you have to do is your robot has to start outside that white taped area, and then which is the warehouse. Then you have to go completely into the warehouse, the robot. You then pick up your one piece of freight, and then you both have to completely exit the warehouse. So it's doing exactly that. You can't.
So there is a movement piece. You get it's into and out of the warehouse. You just can't reach in and grab it.
That is exactly right. You can't take an arm and reach in one and swing around and put it in the shipping hub. The robot has to completely enter that warehouse.
That's why I was thinking about the Crater from a couple of years ago. So
yeah, we're thinking specifically about some of the championship robots from several years ago, where they were delivering these square blocks, and
you can't do that.
They just stretched basically with a conveyor, reached in and placed.
Right. That is not permitted.
All right, and then I assume this is team element, does it need to remain on top or can it slide down, for example, like a donut?
The rule is it has to stay above the top level of the hub. So I'd say, trying to think about it, so there's about 4 inches of tubing there above that top hub. So you could grab around it, but you couldn't have a donut and slide down and be in contact with that top level of the shipping hub. You'd have to be above it. We've seen some in previous years where, you know, a lot of people thought, I think we had one year we had some blocks that we had to stack and then you capped it and people would put stuff on top of the stack. But some others would actually grab around the top one, have some feature clipped onto it. And that's what you could do here. You could clip onto the top of the tube of the shipping hub. You don't actually have to rest on top.
That's the last question in the chat for now. Anybody else have any questions? Game or judging or just general season questions?
So with things like the ducks and the randomization particles that are outside of the warehouse area, are those just free for any team to pick up at any time and score as long as they're not possessing more than one?
Yes, there are no alliance specific scoring elements. So all the freight is non-alliance specific.
What happens to freight that would be inadvertently knocked out of the warehouse? Some robot.
That's a very good question. It came up yesterday because looking at it, those balls, right, could easily roll, you know, there's barriers there, but the barrier doesn't completely stop stuff coming out of that area. There's like a 13-inch gap at each side. So I imagine there could be a case where a ball rolls out as people are shuffling around inside that warehouse area. That's going to be difficult for a referee to track, but the rules specifically say for each freight to be eligible to be scored, the robot must have gone completely in and brought that piece of freight completely out with it. So if somebody had picked up another, if you maybe knocked that ball out and you went after that ball to pick it up, that's probably legal. But if you picked up a block and a ball rolled out, that ball that rolled out would not be a legal scoring. You couldn't legally score it. So the way the rules are written, yeah, the referee is going to have to work out, be able to spot an item that was illegally brought out of the warehouse.
So Paul, if you actually had a ball, let's say you picked up a ball outside of the warehouse and then you drove into the warehouse.
That would then be okay. Yeah.
Then came back out. So you completely went in and then you completely came out with the freight. That would,
yeah, I would say that's okay. But this is something that we're going to have to ask in one of those design committee Q&As because something like that's going to be asked. I asked it to myself as much as much as Nathan just did. There is also a rule that's missing that I notice every year. There's usually a rule about what happens if a drive team touches the driver station after the field has been randomized and before the start of the match. There's usually like a minor penalty. You're not eligible to do something in autonomous. That rule is missing. So they need to add that rule in. I'm sure that'll come out in the next month. There's usually a manual update 4 to 6 weeks. Once they got sufficient questions into the Q&A forums, they go and correct the initial version of the manual.
If you have never been to the Q&A forum, that's another a good place to
Oh
get
yes,
answers.
that's a good point. It's a new location now, a new website. The website is at the end of game manual 2, and it actually mimics and I've never used it myself, but mimics the FRC Q&A. It's the same, but now there's an FTC specific one. It looks like, you know, you can search it better and search on keywords and kind of rule the rules. I think the other old site was getting a little difficult to navigate, especially when you had both traditional and remote rules. So that Q&A usually opens a couple of weeks after the game's release. So I'd expect somewhere around the end of the month. And anybody who hasn't used that, each team will get a unique login address when they registered their FTC team, and unique login and password. If they don't have that, they should go to the Q&A. They should contact first and make sure they've got that. You can go in there and ask any question about the game. You don't have to log in to usually see answers, but you have to log in there to ask a question about the game. And they encourage, unlike FLL, a lot of it's delegated to the state's interpretation rules, but in FTC, I think FRC, everything is done at the first, is run by first. And so that if you answer a question, you'll get one interpretation that goes across all the states. So you can see all the answers to all the questions that come in. And those answers always override anything in the manual. So if there's something incorrect in the manual, it's that Q&A that you've always got to be aware of. And they generally put a single file or single document on the game season page where the game manuals are. Every Thursday evening, it's updated. So just a day before you go to a tournament, you have the latest updates available to you. And it's only now and then that they actually update the game manual. They update the game manual, maybe if, as I said, maybe if a rule is missing. Generally, a lot of the Q&A is more, how do I interpret the existing rules, which is something would never end up in a manual.
Thank you, Paul. Always very informative and helpful. We appreciate that. Keith, was there anything that you would like to touch on as far as judging? I know we talked a little bit about judging will be remote this season. So it's going to run fairly similarly to last year. If you if you participated last year for our remote season, all judging will be through Zoom, but if you're a newer team or you didn't participate last year, Keith, I didn't know if you wanted to maybe hit on some of the portfolio information, engineering notebook information, anything like that, just as a quick run through for teams and coaches.
Well, Game Manual 1's been out for a while. I think I've answered a bunch of questions so far on it. So I think all that information is there. If you've got questions, please reach out. The portfolio hasn't changed from last season. The notebook wise, they've made it very clear that even though you're creating a portfolio, that the notebook is still important. It possibly wasn't as clear in last year's game manual, but it's not as much part of judging. But they specify where it is important in judging, at least in this game manual 1. Besides that, weren't a huge number of changes as far as judging is concerned, and we'll work out the logistics of how we'll do judging and everything for each of the tournaments. And when that comes out, I'm sure everybody will have questions associated with that. But we're still working that out. So I don't know if there's anything else really that I need to talk about. I'm curious what little halo is forming over my head. But
I can't even tell what that is.
it's but here's my since,
there's your rubber duck.
Since you guys have rubber ducks, I'll put my rubber ducks up too, but that's the best I can do.
Awesome. Thank you, Keith. Thank you. All right. Does anybody else have any questions? So I will say we will plan to have more calls. I think the plan is to also plan some scrimmages. for later on in this year as well. So keep an eye out on the website, social media. Make sure you guys are checking those regularly. We will always send out email communication as well, so that everybody is well informed. But please never hesitate to reach out and ask questions as they come to you. First, if you don't already know this, so every season First does have, or they run their own webinars, I guess, is what they are technically, for both coaches and teams to attend. They do them on different topics specific to the game and judging and different things for the season. So they have not come out with a schedule for those yet, but keep an eye out for communication from First, announcing those as well. Those are great opportunities for teams and coaches to get on calls with folks from First and ask them specific questions and things like that as well. All right. Oh, and Paul put some information in the chat for everybody as far as delivering cargo to the shipping hub. So says the procedure for delivering cargo to the shipping hub is defined in warehouse operations, page 14 of game manual 2. All right. If nobody has any further questions, then I will give you guys the rest of your Sunday back. I want to thank everybody for joining tonight. Once again, I did record this session, so I will plan on posting this to our Ohio YouTube playlist. So if you've got team members or other coaches or other individuals who would like to watch, you can direct them there, and I will let everyone know when this is up and ready to be watched. It should be up early next week. So I want to thank everybody again. I hope you all have a wonderful season, and I hope your teams enjoy getting your robots ready for the Freight Frenzy season. So we will talk to you guys, and we will see you guys later.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Everybody. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you,
Bye.
gentlemen. Bye. We'll see you guys later.